What if the chains holding you to addiction are not just habits but deep-rooted rewiring in your brain? Addiction is often seen as a weakness or a moral failing. People say it's about lack of willpower or poor choices. But that view misses something essential. Addiction is a change in the brain itself. It's not just about wanting something and failing to stop. It's about how repeated behaviors reshape the brain's wiring, creating new patterns that become automatic. The brain has systems built to reward us when we do things important for survival: eating, socializing, reproducing. These rewards come through chemicals like dopamine. Normally, this system helps us learn what's good for us. But addictive substances and behaviors trick this system, overstimulating it. This creates strong urges that push us to seek more of the same, regardless of consequences. Because addiction physically alters the brain's circuits, trying to quit by relying on willpower alone is often ineffective. The brain's reward pathways, especially in areas responsible for pleasure and motivation, become hijacked. They override logic and long-term thinking. This hijacking rewires how the brain responds to stimuli, making cravings intense and persistent. Traditional approaches like simply telling someone to stop or relying on promises to quit do not address these changes. They don't reshape the brain's structure. This is why relapse rates are high and recovery feels impossible at times. The key to lasting change lies in understanding that the brain can rewire itself. This process is called neuroplasticity. New habits, thoughts, and behaviors can form new pathways that weaken old ones. It requires deliberate effort and consistent practice over time. Breaking free from addiction demands two things. First, shifting the way we think about ourselves and the problem, viewing addiction not as a fixed state, but as something that can change. Second, actively working to rewire the brain's networks through practical steps. In this exploration, we will first look at the science behind how addiction changes the brain. Then we'll examine mindset shifts necessary to approach recovery differently. Finally, we'll discuss strategies grounded in neuroscience to help the brain rebuild healthier circuits and reclaim control. This journey will show that addiction is not a life sentence. The brain's ability to adapt offers hope for real transformation. Understanding the mechanics behind it reveals a path toward freedom, one rewired connection at a time. The brain is a complex network made up of different parts, each responsible for specific tasks. When it comes to addiction, some regions play especially important roles. One of the central players is the reward system. This system helps the brain recognize what actions bring pleasure or benefits. It uses a chemical called dopamine to signal these rewards. Imagine dopamine as a messenger that tells the brain, "This feels good, do it again." At the core of this system is a small area called the nucleus accumbens. Think of it as a control center for pleasure. When someone uses a drug or engages in an addictive behavior, this control center gets flooded with dopamine. The result is a feeling of intense satisfaction. But here's the catch. Addictive substances cause dopamine to be released in much larger amounts than natural rewards like food or social interaction. This overload tricks the brain into thinking this behavior is extremely important, even necessary for survival. Over time, the brain starts to depend on these artificial dopamine surges. The nucleus accumbens adjusts its activity, making natural rewards less satisfying. The person then needs more of the addictive stimulus just to feel normal. It's similar to how a loud noise initially startles, but then the brain tunes it out after repeated exposure. The difference is that the reward system gets locked into this cycle, reinforcing the behavior and creating cravings. Next is the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning, decision-making, and self-control. It's the voice of reason, helping to weigh consequences and resist impulses. But addiction affects this area by weakening its ability to regulate urges. Imagine trying to steer a car while the brakes are failing. The prefrontal cortex loses some control, making it harder to say no even when aware of the risks. This imbalance means the brain's reward system pushes for the addictive behavior, while the control center struggles to hold it back. The tug of war inside the brain becomes difficult to win. The person feels pulled toward the addiction, despite knowing its harm. Another part involved is the amygdala, linked to processing emotions and stress. Addiction is often connected to trauma or emotional pain. The amygdala reacts to threats and distress, sometimes triggering cravings as a way to relieve discomfort. It's like a smoke alarm going off when danger is near. If the brain associates the addictive substance with relief from stress, this connection strengthens. Stress can worsen addiction because it activates the amygdala and related systems. When stress levels rise, the desire for the addictive behavior intensifies. This creates a loop where stress leads to use, which may cause more stress in the long run. Despite these challenges, the brain remains capable of change. This ability is called neuroplasticity. The brain is not fixed. It can form new connections and pathways throughout life. Think of it like a forest trail. If one path becomes blocked, the brain can carve out a new route. This is how recovery and rewiring happen. With repeated new behaviors, thoughts, and experiences, the brain can strengthen healthier circuits and weaken those linked to addiction. This process requires time and consistency, but it proves that change is possible at a fundamental level. Understanding these brain mechanisms reveals that addiction is not a simple habit or lack of willpower. It's a condition rooted in biology, shaped by chemicals and connections in the brain. But it also shows where hope lies, in the brain's remarkable capacity to adapt and rebuild. This knowledge opens the door to methods that support lasting transformation, starting from within. Addiction feels impossible to escape because it's not just a habit, it's a deeply rooted pattern wired into the brain. When a person encounters something linked to their addiction, the brain reacts almost automatically. This reaction starts with a trigger, which can be anything: a place, a smell, a sound, or even a thought. These triggers set off a craving, a powerful urge that pushes the individual toward the addictive behavior. Cravings happen because the brain has learned to expect a reward when it encounters the trigger. Over time, this expectation grows stronger. It's as if the brain is saying, "This signal means I'm about to get something that feels good. I need to prepare for it." This preparation isn't just mental, it involves physical changes in the brain's chemistry. Chemicals flood certain areas, heightening desire and attention. When the person gives in to the craving and consumes the addictive substance or engages in the behavior, the brain experiences a brief moment of relief. This relief is temporary. It feels like a break from the discomfort caused by withdrawal or the cravings themselves. Withdrawal is the brain's response to absence, the sudden lack of the substance or behavior it has grown dependent on. During withdrawal, chemical balances are off, and the brain signals distress. The temporary relief reinforces the cycle. The brain remembers that acting on the craving reduces discomfort, at least for a short time. This creates a loop that repeats. A trigger sparks craving. The craving leads to consumption. Consumption brings relief, and relief strengthens the desire to repeat the action. Because of this loop, the brain forms strong connections between certain cues and the addictive response. These connections become ingrained pathways. They are similar to well-worn roads in a forest. The more someone travels these roads, the clearer and easier they become to follow. Meanwhile, alternative routes fade away. This is why breaking addiction requires more than just deciding to stop. It means building new pathways to replace the old ones. Environmental and emotional cues play a crucial role in keeping these pathways active. Being in a place where the addiction once took place, or feeling certain emotions linked to past use, can automatically trigger cravings. The brain doesn't need a conscious thought to react. These cues activate the addiction circuitry without warning. This is why relapse happens so often. Even after long periods of abstinence, a single cue can restart the cycle. The brain's memory of the addiction remains strong, waiting for an opportunity to re-engage. This doesn't mean failure, it shows how powerful and persistent these neural connections are. Understanding addiction as deeply embedded in brain pathways changes how recovery is approached. Instead of fighting against the addiction through sheer willpower, the focus shifts to reshaping those pathways. Creating new habits and responses weakens the old circuits over time. It's a slow process, but it's the only way to break free from a cycle that feels unbreakable. Addiction's grip is less about choice and more about learned brain patterns. It's about how the brain reacts to certain signals, chemical imbalances, and repeated behavior. This view explains why quitting feels so difficult and why lasting change depends on rewiring the brain, not just stopping the behavior. The brain's wiring can change, but it requires time, effort, and the right strategies to create new pathways strong enough to replace the old. Breaking free from addiction begins with how you see yourself and the problem. Many believe addiction defines who they are, as if it's a permanent label. The first shift is understanding that addiction is not your identity. It's something you experience, but it does not make you who you are. This change in perspective moves a person from feeling trapped to recognizing they have control. Instead of being a victim to addiction, they become someone with the power to change their story. Recovery requires facing discomfort. Addiction often numbs pain, but to move forward, discomfort can no longer be avoided. It is not a threat, but a sign that change is happening. Learning to accept discomfort as part of growth means seeing it as a tool, not an enemy. When cravings or difficult moments arise, they are signals that the brain is adjusting, that new paths are forming. Avoiding these feelings only strengthens old habits. Embracing them helps build new responses. This process demands patience. The brain's wiring does not change overnight. It requires persistence and steady effort. Each day presents an opportunity to strengthen new habits, even when progress feels slow or invisible. Understanding that setbacks are part of this journey allows a person to keep moving forward. Progress is a series of small steps, not a sudden leap. Self-compassion plays a vital role in this shift. Guilt and shame keep many stuck in addiction. When a person views themselves harshly for past mistakes or relapse, it reinforces negative patterns. Instead, treating oneself with kindness and understanding creates space for change. Self-compassion is not about excusing harmful actions, but about recognizing the difficulty of recovery and giving oneself permission to improve. The difference between a fixed and growth mindset becomes clear in this process. A fixed mindset sees abilities and traits as unchangeable. Someone with this view might believe, "I am addicted and that's all I will ever be." On the other hand, a growth mindset understands that abilities, behaviors, and brain circuits can develop with effort. This mindset encourages learning from mistakes, trying new strategies, and believing in the possibility of change. Consider a person who tried to quit many times but failed. At first, they believed they would never succeed. This fixed mindset made relapse feel like proof they were weak. But when they began to see addiction as a challenge, their brain was learning to overcome, not a permanent state. Everything changed. They approached recovery with curiosity and patience. Each attempt became practice, each setback a lesson. Over time, they built new habits and responses that replaced old ones. Another example is someone who struggled with cravings in social situations. Instead of avoiding these moments or feeling defeated, they started viewing discomfort as a sign of growth. They reminded themselves that feeling uneasy meant their brain was adjusting. They practiced new ways to respond, like deep breathing or changing the environment. This shift turned difficult moments into opportunities to strengthen control. These mindset changes are not easy, but they are essential. They transform how a person interacts with addiction and recovery. Moving from victim to empowered individual, welcoming discomfort as growth, being patient with progress, and treating oneself kindly create the foundation for lasting change. With a growth mindset, the brain's ability to adapt becomes the central tool for breaking free and reclaiming life. Changing the brain starts with small daily actions that shape how it works. The brain's ability to rewire itself is called neuroplasticity. This means it can form new connections and weaken old ones. To take advantage of this, specific techniques help guide the brain toward healthier patterns. One effective method is mindfulness and meditation. These practices focus attention and increase awareness of thoughts and urges. The prefrontal cortex, the brain's center for decision-making and self-control, strengthens with regular mindfulness. By observing cravings without acting on them, the brain learns to pause and choose a different response. This is not about emptying the mind, but about training it to notice impulses and regulate reactions. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, offers tools to change how the brain reacts to triggers. It helps identify thoughts and beliefs that lead to addictive behavior and replaces them with healthier perspectives. For example, when a craving hits, instead of thinking, "I need this now," a person learns to reframe it as, "This feeling will pass, and I can handle it." CBT rewires neural pathways by linking triggers to new, non-addictive responses. Another useful strategy is habit stacking. This involves attaching a new positive habit to an existing routine. Instead of letting a craving lead to an old behavior, a person inserts a healthy action. For instance, after brushing teeth, they might practice deep breathing or write in a journal. These small steps build momentum and create new neural highways that bypass addictive patterns. Visualization and mental rehearsal are powerful tools as well. The brain often cannot tell the difference between imagined actions and real ones. By mentally practicing new behaviors or seeing themselves as someone in control, individuals can strengthen these pathways. Visualizing successfully resisting a craving or engaging in a healthy habit helps prepare the brain to act that way in reality. Physical exercise also plays a key role. It naturally boosts dopamine levels without the harmful effects of substances. Movement increases blood flow and supports brain health overall. Regular exercise reduces the intensity of cravings by providing a natural reward and improving mood. This helps rebalance the brain's reward system, making recovery more sustainable. Social support is essential for rewiring as well. Interacting with others who encourage change activates brain areas linked to motivation and accountability. Being part of a community reduces isolation and provides external cues that reinforce new behaviors. Sharing progress and setbacks with others builds trust and commitment, strengthening the brain's adaptation to recovery. These strategies work together by targeting the brain's networks in different ways. Mindfulness trains control, CBT reshapes thinking, habit stacking creates new routines, visualization builds mental rehearsal, exercise adjusts chemistry, and social support offers motivation. Each method builds new connections while weakening old addiction pathways. Success stories show these approaches in action. One individual struggled with years of dependence. Through daily meditation and CBT exercises, they gradually learned to observe cravings without reacting. They replaced late-night substance use with journaling, creating a new pattern. Visualization helped them see a future free from addiction, reinforcing commitment. Regular exercise reduced their urges, and joining a support group provided encouragement during tough times. Over months, the brain rewired, and what once felt impossible became reality. Another example involved someone who used habit stacking. After meals, instead of turning to old habits, they took short walks and practiced deep breathing. This shifted their brain's response from seeking a substance to enjoying movement and calm. Social support helped maintain consistency, and over time, cravings lessened. The brain adapted, favoring healthier choices. These stories demonstrate that recovery is a process of rewiring, one step at a time. With patience and the right techniques, the brain can rebuild itself. The key is consistency and combining multiple strategies to support change. By understanding how each method affects the brain, anyone can take practical steps toward reclaiming control and living a life beyond addiction. Setbacks and relapse are often seen as failures, but from the brain's point of view, they are part of the learning process. When someone slips back into old behaviors, it does not erase progress. Instead, it provides valuable information about what still needs attention. The brain is constantly adjusting, and setbacks offer a chance to understand which triggers or situations remain strong. Relapse happens because old neural pathways are still present. They are not erased. They have been weakened but can resurface when the brain encounters certain cues. This is why the journey to change is rarely a straight line. It involves moving forward, stepping back, and moving again. Recognizing this helps remove the pressure of perfection. Instead of viewing relapse as a defeat, it becomes a signal to reevaluate and adjust. When relapse occurs, the first step is to avoid falling into shame or guilt. These feelings only reinforce negative patterns in the brain and make change harder. Shame creates a mental block, convincing a person they are incapable of improvement. Instead, approaching relapse with curiosity and honesty allows for learning. Asking questions like, "What led to this moment?" and "What could I do differently next time?" guides the brain toward new solutions. This reflection requires a clear mind and self-compassion. It's not about making excuses, but about gathering information to strengthen the recovery process. Each setback highlights areas where the brain's new pathways need more support. Maybe a particular trigger wasn't fully addressed, or a coping skill wasn't strong enough. This insight helps tailor the next steps. Recalibrating mindset is essential after relapse. It means returning to the core belief that change is possible and ongoing. The growth mindset remains vital here. Mistakes are opportunities to learn, not proof of failure. Reaffirming this outlook keeps motivation alive and encourages persistence. Adjusting strategies also plays a key role. Perhaps mindfulness practices need to be more consistent, or new habits should be introduced to replace vulnerable behaviors. Social support might require strengthening to provide additional accountability. Visualization techniques can be revisited to reinforce the desired identity. Exercise routines may be expanded to improve mood and reduce cravings further. The process of recalibration is a way to reinforce the brain's new pathways. It adds layers of strength to the circuits that support recovery. This approach transforms setbacks from obstacles into stepping stones. Over time, as these pathways grow stronger, the old ones lose their power to pull a person back. This understanding changes the narrative around relapse. It is not an end, but a moment within a larger journey. With each attempt, the brain learns to respond differently, making success more likely. The key is persistence and flexibility, being willing to adapt and continue despite challenges. Stories of those who have faced relapse show this principle clearly. One person returned to use after months of progress, but used that experience to identify hidden triggers they had overlooked. They adjusted their approach, adding new coping strategies and seeking additional support. This shift strengthened their recovery and helped them maintain sobriety longer than before. Another example involves someone who experienced shame after relapse, almost giving up. A change in mindset helped them view the relapse as data, not defeat. They recommitted to daily mindfulness and habit stacking, gradually regaining control. Their brain's new circuits became stronger with this renewed effort. Setbacks and relapse are part of rewiring the brain for lasting change. Accepting this fact removes unnecessary guilt and encourages a practical, solution-focused approach. Learning from these moments and recalibrating both mindset and methods ensures steady progress. The brain adapts through repetition and persistence, making freedom from addiction achievable despite the obstacles along the way. Breaking free from addiction is not just about stopping a behavior. It is about creating a new way of living, one that feels meaningful and whole. When the brain rewires and old patterns lose their hold, what emerges is a clearer sense of freedom. This freedom is not just the absence of cravings or urges, it is the presence of choice, direction, and purpose. Life after addiction offers opportunities that may have seemed impossible before, the chance to explore passions, build strong relationships, and contribute to something bigger. As the brain adapts, changes ripple through many parts of life. Mental health often improves as the cycles of craving and withdrawal fade. Anxiety and depression linked to addiction can lessen as new habits take hold and the brain's chemistry balances. Clearer thinking and improved focus become possible as the prefrontal cortex strengthens. This shift supports better decision-making and emotional regulation, which carry over into daily life. Relationships also benefit from this transformation. Addiction can isolate and strain connections with others, but as the brain builds new pathways, it also rebuilds trust, empathy, and communication skills. People find themselves more present and engaged with family, friends, and community. The capacity for deeper connection grows, opening doors to support and belonging that fuel ongoing recovery. Creativity and problem-solving often rise as well. The brain's plasticity means that as old pathways weaken, new ones for learning and innovation form. Without the distraction of addictive impulses, mental energy can focus on growth and exploration. This renewed mental clarity can lead to pursuing goals, hobbies, or work that once felt out of reach. This phase marks not an end, but a new beginning. Rewiring the brain lays the foundation for lifelong development. The process of growth does not stop once addiction fades. It continues as a journey of self-discovery and improvement. Every day presents a chance to build on what has been gained, to strengthen habits, and to expand one's vision for life. The challenge then becomes sustaining this growth by staying curious and open to change. The same brain that adapted to addiction can keep adapting to new goals and experiences. Embracing this ongoing evolution supports resilience and purpose beyond recovery. In this way, reclaiming life after addiction is about creating a future where freedom and fulfillment are possible. It is a shift from surviving to thriving, from reacting to choosing. The brain's ability to change offers hope that no matter the past, the future can be different, richer, fuller, and more connected. This is the path forward, where life moves beyond addiction into a wider horizon of possibility. Addiction is often misunderstood as a lack of willpower or a moral failing, but it is much more than that. At its core, addiction is a process of the brain rewiring itself, creating strong pathways that link certain behaviors with reward and relief. These patterns grow over time, making old habits feel automatic and hard to break. But the same brain that built those pathways can create new ones, reshaping how we think, feel, and act. This rewiring requires changes in mindset, moving from seeing addiction as an identity to recognizing it as a challenge that can be overcome. It demands patience, persistence, and the willingness to face discomfort without falling back into old patterns. Practical habits are the tools that help this change take root. Mindfulness sharpens self-control. Cognitive strategies shift thinking. Habit stacking builds new routines. Visualization strengthens mental focus. Exercise balances chemistry, and social connections provide support. Together, these approaches work on different parts of the brain, reinforcing healthier circuits and weakening the grip of addiction. Progress may be slow and non-linear, but with consistency, the brain adapts and recovery becomes possible. The chains that bind are in the mind. No external force holds more power over behavior than the neural pathways built through repeated actions and thoughts. But within the mind lies the key to freedom. That key is awareness, intention, and action. Every moment offers a choice to follow old paths or to forge new ones. The power to change lies in how the brain is trained and rewired over time. Starting today, this process can begin. A simple step like pausing to notice a craving without acting on it plants a seed for change. Reframing thoughts when triggers appear, adding a small healthy habit after a routine action, or imagining a future self-free from addiction all help shape new neural circuits. These are not dramatic overnight transformations, but steady steps forward. For those ready to begin, the first step is awareness. Observe the patterns without judgment. Choose to respond differently. The brain's ability to change means that lasting freedom is within reach. This journey is one of ongoing growth and learning, and it begins with one decision. If you want to explore this process deeper, to understand how the brain works and how personal transformation unfolds, consider following for more insights. Together, these ideas and tools can help unlock the mind's potential to overcome addiction and reclaim life. Remember, the chains are in your mind and you hold the key. The choice to start rewiring is yours. Take that step now. Thank you for watching, and if you like this kind of content, kindly leave us a like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.